Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of February 4th through the 10th, 2024. Before I get started with this video, I do want to point out a couple of things. Number one, there won't be any video review or anything like that this week, mostly because, my birthday's on Sunday, February 11th. I'm going to be 42 years old. Yes, I'm getting old and everything like that. So, I'm going to just relax on my birthday and, spend time with family and friends. Maybe go out for something special for dinner for my birthday and all. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a break, mostly because it's my birthday. I'll try to have something next week and everything like that. I'm also looking at the possibility of changing when I release some of my videos, though. Normally I have it set for Saturday and Tuesday, Saturday being mostly the My 2 Cent, and Tuesday being if I do a review or anything like that. Some of this is based off of what I've been reading off of my YouTube analytics, so I might make a change at least from the Tuesday one. I might push it into Wednesday, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm still going to go through a couple of things and everything like that, but just something to let you folks and my viewers or my fans out there, just something just to point out and everything like that. But anyway, we got 5 stories to cover this week, including a second state of play. This one focused on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Rumors about the possibility that one of Xbox's next system could actually be, one of them could be an actual handheld and everything like that. A report coming out about a different approach that we could see with the upcoming Call of Duty game, which is rumored to be Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War. Nintendo has released their financial reports, and the big story this week, including the big rumors that have been coming out that really has kind of blew up online over Microsoft bringing a lot more of their games over to multi-platform and raised this whole possibility of it leaving the console race and everything like that. If you're interested in where I got the source of these information, links will be in the description down below, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. Excuse me. The first one has to do with, apparently, it seems that Final Fantasy XIV for the Xbox Game Pass, though, it does seem on Series X and S, it looks like you will need Game Pass in order to play the Final Fantasy XIV, which is a MMO and everything like that, which is, to many, has raised some eyebrows considering that PlayStation Plus doesn't have that and everything like that. And I can see why some people might find this a little bit awkward or may not like this approach or everything like that, considering that if you play Elder Scrolls Online or playing on the Xbox systems, you don't need, I think you can do it through Game Pass and everything like that. So this is sort of an odd choice, though. Whether or not this will turn people away from playing Final Fantasy XIV on the Xbox remains to be seen at this time. We've also learned that basically that Capcom is going to be sending out surveys, or at least asking fans if they want sequels to games ranging from Dino Crisis, Okami, and several other games, even Phoenix Wrights and all. I mean, it doesn't automatically guarantee that a sequel or a remake or a remaster will happen and all, but it definitely opens the door to the possibility. Personally, I would like to see Breath of Fire, Okami, Dino Crisis, and Onimusha. I think those games deserve another shot, though. I mean, the last Onimusha game we had was sort of a remastered version that was released on the PS4, Xbox One, PC, I believe PC, and the Nintendo Switch. Although I wouldn't mind Onimusha 2, 3, and 4 making its way over to the Switch as well. I think those games were fun, and also hopefully this survey fruits that brings us, some of these IPs that's kind of has remained dormant for some time with Capcom. I mean, if we could get a sequel to Dragon Dogma with Dragon Dogma 2, I think it opens the door to these other games and all. Not to mention, Capcom has really been heavily pushing on the RE engine and everything like that. We also learned that Square Enix seems to be basically reporting the overall on how they make their games and all. I mean, this could be a good or a bad thing in a way, though. I mean, I'm hoping this turns out to be good and it means it puts out better quality and everything like that. But at the same time, Square Enix has kind of been, well, has sort of let's just say, piss off some fan bases out there because of some of their questionable decisions, ranging from focusing on NFTs to their response to AI in general, and of course, a history of SETI raising expectations way too high for their releases of their games and everything like that. So we'll see if this overhaul ends up helping Square Enix or hurting them in the long run. We also learned that apparently Disney has bought some stake in Epic Games and everything like that in terms of a partnership with Fortnite. This all has to do with, Disney releasing, their financial reports and all, which is kind of interesting because in the past, Disney has seemed to be more about licensing their characters, especially when it comes to video games and all. So it's interesting that they bought a stake in Epic Games, and it'll be very curious to see what this means going forward. Excuse me. We also learned that the studio behind Octopath Traveler, I believe Acquire, has now been purchased by the owners, or the company that owns From Software, the folks who created Elden Rings and the latest Armored Core series. It'll be interesting what this means going forward in the foreseeable future, and whether or not this means a Octopath Traveler 3 will ever happen or not. We know that Square Enix has been sort of focusing more on AA games, which, if that's true, is a little bit unfortunate, especially for games like Octopath Traveler or Bravely Default and everything like that. Some of these smaller titles and all. Maybe we could have a situation where Nintendo will be like, yeah, we'll fund Octopath Traveler 3 or something like that. So who knows if that is going to happen and all. We also learned that there has been an update on a report that seemed to indicate that Toys for Bob's was closing development work and everything like that. But apparently it seems that may have been a bit of an error on their part, where it seems to be the office is closing, but not completely all the staff is. And it seems to be they'll be focusing on remote work and something like that. So it might be, it doesn't sound as bad as it is, but hopefully this doesn't mean Toys for Bot is closed for good. Hopefully this opens the door to the possibility of them working on other games other than just being a Call of Duty developer or something like that. I mean, there are folks who believe they could take a shot at doing like a Banjo-Kazooie game, which, I mean, if done right, could technically work. So we'll have to wait and see how that happens. We also learned that the developers of the upcoming game Stellar Blade, which I definitely like what they showed during last week's Sony State and Play and everything, it's basically made a comment that saying that single-player games with a definitive endings are still very important and all. And I would say I do think there is some certain truth to that. Though I think a good, beginning, middle, and end type of game is certainly not a bad thing. This is kind of similar to what Lawrence Studio said about, when they were making Baldur's Gate 3 and their comment ranging from DLC, which I don't completely disagree with what they're saying, but I also view it as DLCs aren't necessarily bad if done correctly, though. That I do want to point out. So I will say this comment from the Stellar Blade developers is certainly not wrong, and I don't disagree with it. And last but not least, the FTC is certainly raising concerns about the recent Xbox batch of employees layoff, as they are currently still suing Microsoft over this deal, even though the deal has officially closed and everything. And they're using this recent situation as an excuse for why this deal shouldn't go through. Although recently Microsoft has responded and saying that these layoffs were well in the work before Microsoft purchased basically Activision, Blizzard, and everything like that. Whether or not what this does for the court case or not remains to be seen, but I'm leaning more towards I just don't see the FTC winning this case. I could be wrong, and I am not a legal expert or anything like that, but right now I'm not sure the FTC has a clear shot in winning that case or anything like that. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My Two Cent, we saw the first trailer for the upcoming Knuckles series, which basically, judging by what they're showing, seems to take place after the events of Sonic 2, but before the start of Sonic 3 and everything. It's supposedly 6 episodes long, and I'm very curious to see how this one is going to play out and all. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this. Supposedly it comes out in April, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that one. Right now I'm going to be taking a look at the second season of Halo on Paramount Plus to see how that one plays out. We also learned that supposedly YouTube TV right now has reached 8 8 million subscribers, which to me that's not certainly isn't bad or anything like that. Excuse me. We'll see if that number goes any higher. I think YouTube TV is good depending on if you're approaching it as cable without the cable box. Just don't go in expecting to be like original content, like if you had like Hulu live TV or something like that. You know how Hulu has original content as well. We also learned that supposedly one of the actresses that played basically in the Mandalorian series, basically Gina Carso, if I'm saying her name correctly, is supposedly reportedly suing Disney over her firing from the Mandalorian, and basically Elon Musk is basically funding basically this whole lawsuit. Now, for context, like I said, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how this case is going to play out. However, I do think that having Elon Musk involved in this does raise certain questions, because I have a hard time, and I know some people will disagree with me on this, but I stand behind what I said. I have a hard time trusting anything Elon Musk says. This person has been known to lie before on many occasions, whether it was the COVID vaccine, to even peddling far-right views, including anti-Semitic comments before in the past. And I've heard before one time he tried to file a lawsuit against a group of people that called him out and claimed that they were going to sue them, although I haven't heard anything since then. So I have serious questions about the legitimacy of this lawsuit, and how much of this is a stunt and how much of it is basically legitimate and all. And supposedly Disney has said none, so we'll see how far this goes. Again, like I said, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how far this will go, but with Elon Musk, and given that this actress has pushed far-right views out, I wonder how much of this is a stunt and how much of this is trying to play the victim and everything like that. Despite the lawsuit or everything like that, it seems as though that Disney seems to be doing very well. Basically, their stock seems to be doing very well for them, though. Despite last year, with some of the movies and TV shows were kind of hit and miss depending on how you want to look at it, though. And especially on Disney Plus, which seems to be had some mixed results as well. So we'll see how 2024 plays out for Disney in general. Excuse me. And last but not least, we definitely have a report of the box office estimates or projections that might be coming out for upcoming movie Dune Part 2. Remember, this movie was supposed to come out last year, I think like around November, but due to at the time the writer's strike and the actor strike, that movie got pushed into this year and everything like that. Last time I read, I think they were looking at a $65 million opening at this time. That number could change and everything like that. We'll have to see how the reviews are for Dune Part 2, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this one. I did enjoy the first one. I saw that on Max and everything, so I am very curious to see how Dune Part 2 is going to do out when that comes out this year and in the theaters and everything. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent and the movie and TV show part of my Quick My 2 Cent now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Xbox and let's just say an interesting rumor that kind of popped up this week that you could say kind of blew up online and in social media, depending on how you want to look at it, though. Now, Microsoft's strategy has kind of been evolving over the years for the Xbox brand or everything like that. We've seen this before, ranging the push for Game Pass, their subscription service, to even starting to see them put some of their games, not all, but some of them on other systems. We started to see that with games like Cuphead, to Ori and the Will and the Wasp, and Ori and the Blind Forest, and everything like that. But they've been very vague on what games they would or wouldn't bring over. And ever since they did that, there have been some questions of, will Microsoft bring this or that game over? I always looked at it at the end of the day, it's going to be a case-by-case basis, and it's going to be their call whether they choose to bring this game over to their competitors or not. So who knows? That sort of has always been my take on the matter, though. Well, recently, a rumor which kind of started on Xbox era and kind of sort of blew up in a way, has started to indicate that Microsoft may be looking to bring other games over. It's sort of evolved, ranging from basically Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could be making its way, to Gears of War, or under consideration, to even this rumor claiming that Xbox is leaving the console space or everything like that. I will get to that part in part 4 and talk about that. But anyway, according to the first article, this one is from basically Xbox Era, and this is what the report says, though. And it started off with basically Starfield might be making its way over to the PS5. According to sources, we understand that currently Microsoft are planning a launch for Starfield on the PS5 post the release. They already post the release of the already announced Shattered Space expansion for Xbox and PC, which is on target to arrive at some point later this year. We've also been informed that Microsoft has made additional investment into PS5 dev kits to support ongoing development effort, adding fuel to the fire. An already existing rumor has suggested the idea of bringing first-party titles to competitor consoles platforms marks a massive change in strategy for Microsoft, and for what I understand, it's not been without fierce eternal debate on this new direction. Releasing Starfield on PS5 contradicts the original statement around exclusivity made by president of Xbox Sarah Bond during the Xbox and Bethesda Game Studio Summer Showcase of 2021. According to our sources, Microsoft's senior leadership has reportedly debated various pros and cons, releasing more of their exclusive software elsewhere. And internally, not everyone is necessarily happy with this decision, but recouping the potential money left on the table by releasing elsewhere has arguably won out. Now, since then, as I mentioned, there have been talks about the possibility of Gears of War coming to rival platforms, to even, like I mentioned, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, to even Halo, for that matter, though. Now, since then, it sort of has blown up, and supposedly diehard Xbox fanboys are kind of freaking out over this. Some have even said that it means their Xbox is useless and everything like that. To that point, eventually it got to the point that Microsoft did have to respond to this, and according to Phil Spencer, he sort of posted out a tweet on X, formerly known as Twitter, by basically saying, quote, "We listened and we heard you. We'll be planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned." And some developers have weighed in on this as well, while some have responded feeling like it seems useless to put their games on Xbox because of what's been going on with this rumor and everything like that. Others, like the developers of Baldur's Gate 3, has sort of given this more of a optimistic look on this. Basically, this is what supposedly the director of publishing for Lawrence Studio had to say. Quote, "People's mind has been absolutely blown by Microsoft's controversial strategy to get more people playing Xbox games by releasing them to a broad range of people. The Xbox Series S is a really cost-effective way to play AAA games, but it's not the only way. The fact that the Xbox teams know that there is a good thing for you and their games, the more copies they sell, the less risk and the more they can invest. Enjoy if bordering it is true. Let me give you some optimism. The fact that so many vocal and active Xbox players means there's an audience. If there's an audience, there's opportunity. Your favorite ecosystem isn't going anywhere, but strategies shift with the times to make sure the economy makes sense. In spite of Xbox games being on Game Pass, PC, and Xbox, they habitually make Steam top seller at full price. Why wouldn't they want to make money off games, therefore reducing the risk while at the same time be able to say, well, over here it's basically free? Other people like former God of War director David Jeffrey has chimed in on this, and this is what he had to say. Quote, Starfield, it seems, along with seemingly all other first-party Xbox games, are coming to the PS5. People seem upset about this. I struggle to figure out why anyone is giving a, pardon my language, a shit. Why does it matter? And recently, Tom Warner has chimed in on this, on some of this as well, basically pointing out some comments, though, on X, formerly known as Twitter. One post, he said, "Don't make me tap the sign," and it has a GIF with him saying, quote, "Worth stressing," hold on. Okay, here we go. "Worth stressing that Microsoft's considering Xbox exclusive game for PS5 doesn't mean they will 100% launch, but it's a big shift in Microsoft Xbox strategy emerging. Hi-Fi Rush looks set to be the one of the first, but the question remains how many others and when." Someone asked about this, and he followed up with this statement by someone saying, quote, "When game journalists cause a controversy, realizing they perhaps gone about it a bit recklessly and seek to do damage control in order to salvage their relationship with Microsoft. I'm kidding, but I also kind of not. Maybe report doesn't always need report until official." Tom Warner responded to this person by saying, quote, "I've been very careful with what I've shared so far and made it clear Indiana Jones is only a consideration and not a full and final thing. Other people, not so much." So, do I think Microsoft could have done a better job handling the situation? I would say yes. I think they could have handled this better, considering how this blew up this week and everything like that. But at the same time, I do think people are sort of freaking out and losing sleep over this and everything like that and all. I mean, it will be interesting to see what Microsoft's strategy is going to be when they start talking about this next week. And there are many ways you could look at the strategy. Yes, it is possible that they could choose to basically bring Starfield to the PS5 or even the Switch successor or even Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. At the same time, it could be their strategy of doing it on a case-by-case basis. They could also just outright deny that this rumor is not true at all, to even saying when we mean by bringing our games multi-platform, we're referring to, say, Activision Blizzard games are only going to be the games that are going to be multi-platform and all. So there are many ways that you could look at this, but no matter what, I'm not really losing sleep over this. I mean, I have no problem having an Xbox Series S. I still enjoy that system, though. It's not making me want to abandon Game Pass or anything like that. I still see value in Game Pass, especially since it gives me the opportunity to try the game out before whether it's worth that $70 price tag or not. I did that with Starfield and everything like that. So I do see the benefits to it, and it doesn't make me want to leave the Xbox ecosystem or anything like that. So yes, I do think some people are freaking out over this and everything. But I will say I do think Microsoft needs to do a good job making it clear what their message is, though, because I think I would say they haven't done an okay, but not a perfect job when it comes to their messaging and everything like that. So overall, yes, I agree Microsoft could have done a better job relaying this message, but at the same time, I do think people are overreacting and freaking out. Remember, these are just rumors for the time being. We'll have to wait and see what Microsoft says next week. We'll find out for certain, and hopefully they do a good job clearing this up in the best way the possibility is. But regardless of what direction Microsoft decides to go, that's not making me stop using Game Pass or using my Xbox Series S or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with Nintendo releasing their financial report. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we were back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo. Particularly, they have released their financial reports, though, and I will say, judging from what they showed so far, this definitely does look very impressive. That's of what they have basically shown. So in terms of Switch hardware sales, right now the Nintendo Switch has basically sold, in terms of hardware, 139.36 million units have been sold, with software sitting at 1,200.10 million. So definitely still short from the Nintendo DS on the hardware side, and supposedly, I think last time I heard it was like 17 million short of overtaking the PS2. But still, very impressive for a system that has been on the market since 2017 and all. And it will be very interesting to see if Nintendo can overtake not only the DS but the PS2 before we get started with the announcement of, the Switch successor, which rumors seem to be going around that seem to be aiming for a possibility for March. Again, nothing official and everything like that at this moment. That's just a rumor going around, but it would be interesting if they announce the system during in March, which would be interesting because that's when they launched the Nintendo Switch in March. It would be interesting if they announced their successor in March and everything like that. But anyway, not bad for the hardware itself. In terms of the top selling games, here's what we have so far. We have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 60.58 million, because why not? At this point, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is pretty much the Skyrim and GTA 5 at this point. Animal Crossing New Horizon at 44.79 million. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 33.67 million. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 31.61 million. Super Mario Odyssey at 27.65 million. Pokemon Sword and Shield combined both at 26.17 million. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet combined at 24.36 million. Super Mario Party at 20.34 million. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at 20.28 million. And New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 17.20 million. I'll have to see that Super Mario Bros. Wonder did not make it on that list and everything like that. I'm sure it still did well, though, but I was thinking that would make it much higher, mostly because, coming off of the success that the Mario movie did at the box office. But in either case, not bad numbers. Nice to see Tears of the Kingdom is also doing very well. So yeah, Switch still seem to be doing pretty well for Nintendo, and I think that's certainly nice. And the Nintendo president did mention that it will be their main business heading into 2024. So whether or not, however you want to read that, a lot of people could read that in very different ways and everything like that. Some say that Nintendo will only be focusing on just the Nintendo Switch itself. Others are saying, no, it still means that they are planning to talk about the Switch successor, whatever they're going to call it, to be exact. But in either case, though, certainly doing very well for Nintendo indeed. 139 million, not bad. The big question I have, like I said, remains is whether or not they can overtake the Nintendo DS and the PS2 before the Switch successor eventually comes out and everything. One other comment that was mentioned during their fiscal report had to do with Pal World and everything like that. As some of you are aware, Pal World has really blown up online, both on, I think, on Steam and on Xbox as well. It's currently part of Game Pass. There has been some controversy surrounding the game, as some have accused it as basically just outright stealing assets from Pokemon to everything like that. And as far as Nintendo's response to it, the only thing we've seen Nintendo done at this time does seem to be basically mostly going after modders, including, I think, one in particular that put like Ash and Pikachu in Pal World. I think that was both Nintendo and the Pokemon company, though. Well, Nintendo president sort of responded to some comments that were made, I believe, during their fiscal earnings and everything like that. Basically, is taking a line similar to what the Pokemon company has said, though, and this is the response, saying, I quote, regarding Pocket Pair, Power World, which has been pointed out for a similarity to Pokemon. The president said that in general, we will take appropriate action against those that infringe our intellectual property right. Now, again, to be clear, the only thing Nintendo has done so far has only gone after basically, the modder that put Ash and Pikachu in it. Outside of that, we haven't really seen them do really anything else at this time, and it remains to be seen if they do or not. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if Nintendo decided to go after Power World. Remember, they, along with the Pokemon Company, do have a history of basically being extremely protective of their IPs and all. Sometimes I think they're in the right, sometimes I think they're in the wrong. The question is, should Nintendo decide to go after the developers of Power World legally, it will be whether or not they have a solid case to run on or not. So time will ultimately tell, but so far the response has been very similar to what the Pokemon Company said. But putting that all aside, though, it seems the Switch still continues to do very well for Nintendo. It certainly has been a success for them, though. It will be interesting to see how they make that transition going into their next system and all, which I do believe will be, I still stand behind the belief that they will announce it, though. I don't know if they'll announce it next month, as rumors point out, but I do believe they will eventually announce it, and I am more in the camp of probably holiday 2024. We'll probably see it on store shelves and everything like that. But for right now, Nintendo is doing extraordinarily well and everything like that. And so overall, I would say very impressive numbers for Nintendo. It will be very interesting to see how they can keep that momentum going, especially when we eventually start hearing the announcement of the Switch successor. In terms of Power World, the response seems to be the same as what the Pokemon Company has made. We haven't seen any major move outside of going after these modders from Nintendo, but time will tell ultimately if they decide to go after the developers of Power World or not. And as far as the Direct, obviously we did not get this one this week, though, so we'll have to wait until next week. There has been rumors pointing to that. Some are claiming it could be a Partners Direct, so hopefully we'll find out next week if a Nintendo Direct does happen or not. But for now, in terms of the financial side, Nintendo is doing very well and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with supposedly a change in the Call of Duty formula, particularly on the single-player side. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be talking about Call of Duty and all. Now, for most people, Call of Duty is mostly recognized for a lot of its multiplayer modes and so forth, though, including with the success that Call of Duty Warzone has been. But at the same time, the series has also gotten some basically criticism, ranging from developers trying to copy to make their next Call of Duty, to Activision Blizzard having all their studios all hands on deck, doing only Call of Duty multiplayer and all, hence some call them like Call of Duty Studios or the Call of Duty Factory and everything like that, to even the single player kind of treated more like an afterthought, as it seems to be more focused on the multiplayer side and everything like that, though. And with Microsoft now owning Activision Blizzard, it remains to be seen what the future of Call of Duty might be, as it's possible there could be a shift in terms of the strategy, such as not release one every single year or something like that. So time will tell whether this strategy changes or not. But one thing that seems to be going around lately is that in terms of the single player side, they may be taking approaches doing more of an open world style of approach. Now, supposedly, not everybody was a fan of this approach in terms of how it was done in Modern Warfare 3 and all, but it seems that that hasn't stopped Activision Blizzard from continuing that approach to a certain extent. This comes from an article from Insider Gaming. Basically, it reads that, quote, this year's Call of Duty is set to embrace an open-world campaign in Black Ops Gulf War, Insider Gaming has learned. It won't be the first time the series has seen an open-world SK campaign, though at the first glance of what such a campaign could look like was first explored with Modern Warfare 3 and its open world mission. However, sources explain that unlike Modern Warfare 3, Gulf War campaign has been built from the ground up rather than using assets from previous titles. Currently, the open world will see the player and their squad navigate the map more ankle to that of the Far Cry rather than anything we've seen before in the Call of Duty universe. Players will be able to utilize vehicles to get around as well as use fast travel systems to get from one point to the next. Although the scope of how many linear missions there will be remains to be seen, sources confirm that some linear missions will be integrated into the game. The campaign, developed by Raven Software, which does multiplayer zombies to be handled by Treyarch Games, will see the returns of some Black Ops characters, including Adler, Adler, who will be part of your team. Outside of Black Ops Gulf War, sources also reveal that it's likely the series could lean into more open world campaigns over linears moving forward. Call of Duty 2025, codenamed Saturn, which currently doesn't have an assigned lead developer, is also pitched to have an open world campaign with its map being separated into several different biomes/locations. While the pitch of the game is very much in flux due to its early development, 20 months until launch at the time of this writing, it was said that the campaign shift from linear to open world is primarily based on streamlining development over everything else, but whether this change or not by release is unclear. So in a way, I think this could work if it's executed correctly, though. I think the idea of taking more of an open world approach may not be a bad idea. I can understand why some folks may not like this approach, especially if saying it's more ankle to Far Cry, which can be kind of a good or a bad thing. I mean, Ubisoft's open world approach sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes many people feel like it's just nothing more than filters in terms of all these checkpoints and everything like that. So it may or may not work, but I also think it might necessarily work. I mean, some ideas, like I think games like Sniper Ghost Warrior Contact, if I'm saying the name correctly, I thought the open world on that one was done. I thought it was done pretty good and everything like that. So I do think this has the potential to be good. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see what some of the actual gameplay and all, but I definitely like the idea of them doing an open world with some linear missions involved. I hope it does add some replayability for the single player campaign and everything like that. And it'll be interesting if this is something that, like I said, I'm hoping it's sort of like can be played single player and all. I mean, not that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a multiplayer mode for this kind of campaign, but I'm hoping that single player is certainly still there. So overall, I would say this is a very interesting approach that they'll be taking for the campaign for Call of Duty. If this is true, though, whether it's executed well or not remains to be seen. And assuming, from what I understand, people didn't like how they did it in Modern Warfare 3 Remastered, hopefully they have learned their lesson about that and figure out how to best approach the situation and so forth, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one has to do with reports that Microsoft is working on their next system, and they may be doing 2 systems, and one of them could be actually a handheld. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about Xbox, particularly the possibility of a handheld. Now, as I mentioned in part 1 of this video, one of the big rumors that came out was the whole idea of Starfield along with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could be making its way to other systems and everything like that. This has led to a huge amount of speculation that many believe that Microsoft is going to be exiting the hardware business and all, and some think it's going to be like what we saw with Sega when they pretty much ended the hardware support and became a third-party developer and publisher, though. However, recent rumors, assuming these rumors are true, seem to indicate that may not be true at all, and that Microsoft could be taking an approach, at least with one of their systems, could be trying to take an approach very similar to what Nintendo did with the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. In an article from WCCF Tech, it basically reads that, quote, the next generation Xbox is releasing 2 different SKU, and the cheap one will be a Nintendo Switch-like handheld that will be able to play Xbox games natively while also supporting cloud gaming. Speaking during the latest episode of Xbox XNC, Xbox Newscast podcast, middle-aged game guy commented on the next Xbox console, saying it's still on track for a 2026 release, and they will launch in 2 different SKUs. The most expensive SKU will be a traditional game console like the Xbox One and Xbox Series X, while the cheapest SKU will be a dockable handheld in the vein of a Nintendo Switch created by the Surface team with built-in controls and touchscreen support, supporting cloud games that is capable of running Xbox games natively, though. As Microsoft strategy seems to change dramatically over the past few console generation, it wouldn't exactly be surprising to see the company attempt to expand into the handheld market. Despite this, we must take everything with a grain of salt until the next generation Xbox console is officially revealed, though. So the idea of Microsoft might be doing a handheld or anything like that doesn't sound a bit far-fetched if executed correctly, though. I mean, ever since the success of the Nintendo Switch, we've seen somewhat of a resurgence when it comes to the handheld. I mean, look at stuff like the Steam Deck, which is one good example of that, to even basically the ROG Ally, or some of these handhelds that are now pushing where you can actually play your PC games on and do a better job bringing them on the go and everything like that. I mean, last time I checked, the ROG Ally also supported Game Pass and everything like that. So it's certainly not out of the realm of the possibility of this report being true. If it is true, it is very interesting to see how Microsoft will approach basically this Switch-like handheld, if that's what they are working on. I mean, what are they going to do that's going to separate it from like what Nintendo has done with the Nintendo Switch? I mean, I'm not against if you draw inspiration from the Switch, but obviously you gotta have something that really separates between the two and make it something like original and all. And the fact that the Surface team could be, or the Microsoft Surface team could be working on it, is kind of interesting as well, as they've never really developed a handheld or let alone worked on the Xbox division or anything like that. So to have them involved is kind of interesting indeed. Now, obviously, things could change and all, and it is worth taking out that this information should be taken with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I am kind of curious about it though. I mean, I like my Nintendo Switch. I like the whole console handheld hybrid concept, to be exact though, and it would be very interesting to see other like Sony and Microsoft see what they could do though. You know that there are rumors that Sony is probably working on a new handheld with AMD and everything, and also this would be very interesting to see what Microsoft does if this handheld rumor is true. I am curious to see how powerful it will be, what the battery life would be and all, and if the rumors of it being docked is true, that you could play it on your TV and bring it with you on the go though. I am curious to see what the storage space would be, and would it be able to accept any of those, the cards that, like the Seagate cards that are used to plug into the back of your Xbox Series X and S and everything like that. So there's a lot of questions if this rumor is true and all. So overall, it is a rumor for now, and we'll have to wait until Microsoft starts revealing their next system or give the official clue and everything like that. But I will say, given the success that the Nintendo Switch has had, combined with we're seeing somewhat of a resurgence when it comes to handhelds, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Microsoft could take this approach, release their own Switch-like handheld device, or release 2 SKUs. We saw this with the Xbox Series X and S, so Be very interesting to see how this all plays out and all, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fifth and final part. And this is one I want to talk about and give my thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, I want to give my take on the Final Fantasy Rebirth State of Play. Now, last week during Sony's State of Play, one of the announcements they made was that they were going to do a State of Play for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which will be coming out later this month, though. Now, I did get a chance to watch it, and it was about 19 minutes, maybe like 20 minutes long and everything like that. And I will say this is definitely one of the games I am looking forward to. Not to mention there is a demo out for this week, so that certainly is a plus indeed and everything. And I will say it certainly has made me more interested in picking up the part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII remake, even if there are some parts I'm sort of mixed or not 100% sure about. In terms of what I like, I will say that the open world part definitely looks interesting and everything like that. It's definitely going to be more open than what we saw in the Final Fantasy VII remake and all, and I'm very curious to see more about how they take this approach to the open world. I mean, I like what I saw in terms of it, though, and I'll be very interested to see what areas we could explore, or even if there are new areas to be exact, though. The next thing to want to point out is that we now basically know that there will be a graphical option, either a performance or graphic mode and all, along with the combat mode like active or classic and everything. There has been some back and forth between the two, as some have pointed out that the performance mode does look a little bit fuzzy or something like that. Still, I'm more of a gameplay over graphics kind of a person, so I'm probably going to stick with performance mode. Even with my PS5, I have it hooked up to my TV. It's mostly a 1080p TV and everything like that, so I'm not as bothered as much in terms of graphics. Not that I'm saying that graphics are unimportant, it's just that I'm more of a gameplay over graphics type of a person. So this one's I'll probably be aiming for more on the performance mode side of it. And also in terms of combat, I probably will aim for the active, making it more closer to what hopefully it will be similar to what Final Fantasy VII Remake was in terms of the combat, since I definitely enjoyed the combat on that one, though. Speaking of which, there are certainly some interesting things about the combat that certainly look unique, including this whole relationship thing, including one where you can supposedly go on a, quote, date with basically one of the characters when you get to the golden saucer and everything like that, and some of that might help with you during like the combat, including some of the special moves and everything like that. So it certainly looks really neat in terms of the combat side, so I'm definitely looking forward to that in terms of basically for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. As far as what I didn't like or mix or not 100% sure about, I will say I'm kind of mixed on some of the mini games and everything like that. I mean, they might be fun or it might be for one time, but some of them don't seem to, I'm not really sure about all of them. Although there is one that kind of stood out for me for most, and I think one of it was basically turning the characters into the pixel art from the original Final Fantasy VII that was released back on the PlayStation back in 1997. I mean, that one looked kind of neat. I might give this one a go. That one kind of caught my attention the most. And the other thing that we started to see that in terms of upgrading or leveling up their character, we started to see what's called I think a Foils, F-O-L-I-O-S. Supposedly this is similar to sort of the fear grid that we saw in Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy X if you want to refer to it though, which I would say that can be either a good or a bad thing. It might be good for those who enjoy that approach in the Final Fantasy series, especially if you enjoy that in Final Fantasy X and all. But at the same time, I can understand it may not appeal to everyone out there and all. So I think this one I would put more on the mixed side of it, though. I think it can be a good thing or it could be sort of a bad thing. But a lot of that will come down to your preference and taste. But I would say despite that, I came away pleased with what I saw with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am very curious and looking forward to trying this game out. I know there's a demo out available. I'm hopefully will try that out when I get the chance and everything like that. And one other thing that they did mention that I think has been brought up is that there may be a change in the way in terms of Eri, if I'm saying her name correctly, her fate and everything like that. Those who played the original Final Fantasy VII back on the original PlayStation will know what exactly happened to her and what her fate was, though. And for many, for a lot of gamers, that was not great, and some didn't like that. Some thought it was a sad moment. It does sound like, at least based on what at least the trailer was showing, seemed to indicate you could change her fate or something like that. So again, not 100% sure about this, but it does seem kind of interesting that they sort of brought that up. But putting that aside, I will say overall, I like the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play, what they showed. I'm looking forward to trying the demo out when I get a chance, and it does make me hyped for Final Fantasy VII remake for the Rebirth, I'm sorry, for the PS5. I'm looking forward to trying that game out when it comes out later this month and all. Okay, this concludes this, excuse me, this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this rumor that's been going around with Xbox about some of their games actually becoming multi-platform? Do you think this rumor is true? Do you think this rumor is false? Do you think it's partially true, that it could just be on a case-by-case basis or just only referring to Activision Blizzard game? Do you think some people are blowing it way out of proportion? And do you think Microsoft could have handled this situation better? What are your thoughts about Nintendo's financial reports? Are you impressed with the numbers that they showed, though? Do you think this could have an impact for when Nintendo eventually announces, their next system, the Switch successor, and everything like that? What are your thoughts about this open world approach that they've been doing for the next Call of Duty game? Do you think this is the right approach? Do you think it could work if it's done right? Or do you think, like, after how they handled it in Modern Warfare 3, this isn't the right approach to take for at least on the campaign side of Call of Duty? What are your thoughts about this rumor about the Xbox releasing a handheld, possibly in sort of a Switch-like device? Do you think this is a smart move on Xbox's part? Do you think this idea could technically work if this rumor is true? Or do you think they should take the approach like they did with the Xbox Series X and S, or have one SKU instead of having two different SKUs and all? And what are your thoughts about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play? Did you get a chance to watch it? Were there things that stood out for you the most? Are you looking forward to trying this game out? Are you looking forward to trying the demo out? Do you think this convinces you to pick this game up when it comes out later this month, or you're still not 100% sold on it? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!